Okay, hello, welcome to another Jenkins X office hours. I think we've got hopefully some good discussions prepared for today. We've got a lot of exciting news that we've been working around some of the proposal areas on Jenkins X Labs. Some people may know about it, some people may not. So we're going to cover a little bit of that and some of the recent work that's been going on there. I think we've got a couple of subjects we want to dive into as well, which Terry's going to bring up as well. But as always, please engage and let's have some good discussions, and anything else anybody else can think of, feel free. Don't be shy. It's or any discussions are good discussions. So yeah. All right. Just to kick things off, James, if I do a little bit of setting context, are you all right to then talk through some things?
Yeah. I just need to plug in my keyboard. It's almost without juice.
Just the record. I use an over-the-top keyboard because my other keyboard's broken, and now the keys have started falling off of that one. So I think I have to get a keyboard to sit on top of my external keyboard.
What are you doing with the keyboards, James? Well, either James.
It's all this typing.
Well, yeah, it probably is, to be honest. Yeah.
He sits very close to the window.
Alrighty, okay, let's just stay in. Let me share my screen. And so, for folks that may or may not be aware, let's have a look at this. We've showed this a couple of times, but just to kind of hit home a little bit, we started the year trying to find a better improve the approach we have about kind of getting better involvement from people, better collaboration at the start of ideas. So rather than just putting up maybe an issue can be a bit low level sometimes, and they can be sorted up sometimes. But rather than an issue or maybe a pull request, but maybe things are a little bit too late. If people have ideas or thoughts or something larger architectural decisions which they want to get some collaboration on, then we kind of introduce this idea of an enhancements area. So the idea is anybody can raise an enhancement proposal if they want more help or just to collaborate on an idea, then it's a good place to kind of raise that up. We have had some really great stuff already. So we've had a couple of proposals go in. There's a brilliant, you can see there's 19 comments on this one, which is really great around the Terraform work that's been looked at as well. So that's been taken off as well, which is great to see. Really great involvement from people. And it's also what was really great about this particular one was we want to encourage anybody that's got an opinion around Jenkins X. It's not just from developers or users, but also we've had even engineering managers giving thoughts. Who thought they could have opinions as well, but they do, which is really, really great. So from PMs as well, and anybody from any organization that has kind of any thoughts or feedback, then it's a really great place to kind of start sharing and collaborating. One of the other ones that's been added was by yours truly. The idea for one of the challenges that we've got with Jenkins X is we transition again into the third year. We want to continue to improve that stability and reliability that people need from Jenkins X, really hit home with that. But also with the rate of innovation that's happening outside of Jenkins X, and also what we want to be doing within the project ourselves, and the number of collaborations with other open source projects, we really want to ramp up the innovation and get that faster feedback all the time, maintaining that kind of level of stability and reliability from Jenkins X that people need to be able to run their workloads, their teams need. So the idea is that we've tried to propose is the idea around a lab, a Jenkins X Labs. Now this is almost like an incubation area where we kind of try out ideas. They have following different API versioning with Kubernetes from alpha and beta as well before they get to GA. Having kind of an area that we can collaborate and try new ideas and see how they evolve without affecting the stability of the core platform. So there's lots of ideas that have been happening there already. I think James is going to dive in and show some of the exciting stuff, which I think Bradley, you mentioned about Helm 3, so you'd be interested with this. Then I can probably fall back. There's something else I can show you, but before we do, after James, we'll probably go to Terry, and then I can follow up some things as well. Cool. Okay, over to you, James.
Yeah, I'll try keep it quite short. I'll try to do like 10, 15 minutes. I'll try demo. There we go. Thing. Let me share my this one. Just bear with me a second. My laptop's a little bit slow. Okay, can you see my desktop? It should be the
Yeah.
web page. Oh,
You might want to drop your video off because you're breaking up a little bit.
okay. Try and remember. Cool. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, phew. Right, I'll kind of walk through the docs a little bit and I'll do a live demo at the same time. So quickly, we've wanted multi-cluster for the longest time. And by multi-cluster, I mean development, staging, and production could all be in the same cluster. They could be in different clusters. They could all be on the same provider. They could be providers. They could be different accounts and service accounts, whatever. So you might want to cluster on, say, GKE for development, and you might want to use, I don't know, Amazon for staging and production, or you might want everything on Amazon on different accounts, or everything on Google on different accounts, or Azure, or whatever. One of the slight problems we've had is installing development has always been very different to setting up staging and production. So we kind of want development, staging, and production to all be the same. In other words, all boot in the same way. And it shouldn't really make any difference whether they're all in the same cluster or separate clusters or whatever. And we want to reuse all the same boot capabilities for setting up TLS and certs and ingress and Knative or Glue or Flagger or Nexus or whatever. So we want to use the same boot process for dev, staging, and production, whatever the cluster layout you're using. Coupled with that, we wanted to use Helm 3 because Helm 3 makes everything much simpler. We can get rid of all of these kind of tillerless hacks we've had for a couple of years. So we did an experiment using Helm 3 and something called Helm File, which is a way of managing lots of Helm releases using a simple GitOps approach. And this experiment is all in the labs folder. If you go to the lab and click on boot, this area here is the Helm 3 Helm File multi-cluster version of boot. Now, if you've used boot before with Jenkins X, it looks and feels pretty much the same. Under the covers, it's completely different because it's using Helm 3 and Helm File, but you'll see that in a second. The big difference, though, is right now we're using a different command line. JXL is the binary for using Helm 3 and Helm File and stuff like that. We did initially start hoping we could do JX Alpha boot, but life became slightly complicated. So currently we've got a separate binary just to keep things easier. At some point we hope to get this combined into JX someday, but just for now it's a separate binary so it can go nice and quick and it doesn't interfere at all with JX. So I've installed a JXL binary, and if you type JXL help, it looks kind of like JX. It's got a bunch of commands there. It doesn't have all of the commands from JX, it just has the boot stuff right now. And if you look in the boot section, this walks through how to get started, some of the benefits of this new boot. Basically, the benefits are, well, it's much simpler, it's easier, everything's Helm 3. Let me just show you it in action, really. But basically, if you click on the Getting Started guide, there's a bunch of docs on how to set up the cloud resources. I've already followed these before the call. So I'm basically using the gcloud command line. I'm using this shell script to boot up a Kubernetes cluster and set up all the cloud resources. If you want to do it the hard way, you can copy and paste all these gcloud commands from this webpage. All of these commands in this docs, by the way, get tested in an integration test, so we know these commands work. So copy and paste those using GKE with gcloud. I've already done that bit, so you don't need to worry about it. These are the other 3 steps or 4 steps. The next thing we need to do is create a Git repository. Now, the current version of boot in JX, you type JX boot and all this kind of magic happens. It creates Git repositories, it applies secrets, it runs a pipeline. It's all kind of combined into one step. To simplify the UX, we've split this up into pieces. So the first piece is you set up the cloud resources, which I've already done. Then we create a Git repository. If I click on the Git repository, you create a Git repository by doing JXL create. I'm going to do that now in this directory. I'm just going to show you that I've got no pods right now, and I've got very few namespaces. And I'm going to use a slightly different version of that command, which will appear on this web page. Oh, there it is. It's this pit. I'm going to use this one. I'm going to use that command, which is going to default to GKE, and it's going to default to use public Git repositories for the environment and applications repositories. So I'm going to copy and paste that in here and hit return. And it's going to create a Git repository. You do want this yes for the owner of the repository. Let me make this a bit bigger, actually. I'll give a list of users that I'm going to put in the owner's file. I'll just put me for now. Now it's going to verify everything. Does that all look good? Yes. Carry on. I'm not using TLS right now, which is really bad, but let's not worry about it because it's just a quick demo. Do I want to upgrade JX? Not right now. And hopefully fairly soon it should have all the source code ready and it's going to create the Git repository. Okay, I'm going to use github.com, my personal account, and that's the repository name. Now here's a new thing. Because I've never authenticated before, it's going to authenticate me with github.com. And it's going to log me in with github.com. Yeah, that's good. I've logged in. So now it's going to have access to a token. So now it can create the Git repository using the token. So this avoids all of that kind of copying, pasting URLs and all of that kind of stuff. So I've created a new Git repository. There we go. That's the Git repository. Now, if you've used Boot before, there's kind of a Boot repository, kind of. There's a few kind of subtle differences. So there's a requirements file, which is basically the same as it always has been. There's a requirements file. Ever so slightly different because if you look very, very closely, it's got Helm file true now. But apart from that, this is like a normal requirements file. The eagle-eyed amongst you might notice there's a Jenkins X YAML, and the Jenkins X YAML is a nice, simple, small build pack, so there's not a whole lot to see there. There's also this thing called JX Apps YAML. If you look at the JX Apps YAML, this is basically a new config file, which is all the apps to install. Now, long-time Jenkins X users who know about behind the curtain will notice there's no Jenkins X platform anymore. There's no Uber charts here. These are all individual simple charts that you can add and remove whenever you want. So if you want to get rid of Nexus, you delete that line. If you want to get rid of Chart Museum, you delete that line. So life's really, really, if you want to get rid of Nginx, delete that line. So life's really, really simple. It's a simple ball of YAML. Anybody can add or remove apps by just editing this YAML file. Right, without further ado, let me proceed to the next part of the demo. I'll leave that running, and while it's running, I'll show you what's happening behind the curtain. So once you've created the Git repository, we've got the Git repository, now you need to set up secrets. Now we've pulled out the secret management as a separate step because different people might want to do that differently. Today we support two implementations right now, Google Secret Manager or a Kubernetes secret. We hope to make this much broader and support Vault as a service, the Amazon Secret Manager, the Azure Secret Manager. Right now we've just got Google Secret Manager or Kubernetes secrets. Now, normally you would type that command, which will edit secrets incrementally on the command line. I'm going to run a slightly different version of that command because you can also, as you can see here, you can also import secrets. If you already have the secrets on the file system, you can just import the secrets in one command and you're done already. So I'm going to type JX boot import. Let me type import. I'm going to copy and paste that URL because I need to point it at which Git URL is there. And I'm going to point at a previous. If you've used Jenkins X before, all the secrets get stored locally if you're not using Vault. And I'm going to reuse some secrets from my file system. So this is going to import some secrets from my file system into Google Secret Manager, hopefully. Any second now. There we go. So now that command has imported those secrets into Google Secret Manager. That's the Google Secret Manager secret that's been created. So we've got the secrets set up. We've got the Git repository set up. So now we can boot it. And booting it is this command line. Now, the first time you run boot, there is no environment. So there's no Git repository, so we have to specify the Git repository in the URL. Once you've booted once, you can drop that command from now on. So let me boot, so JX boot run, and I'm passing the Git URL. Now, another big change on this is boot always runs on the server side. It never runs on the client side. It might look like it's running on my laptop, but what it's actually done is it's run that Helm command to install a chart inside Kubernetes. And if I look at the kubectl get pod-w, we'll see there's a pod running. So that's JX boot running in a pod. So what we do now is we always run boot inside Kubernetes, which means we can use things like volume mounts for secret management, and we can use security from Kubernetes and RBAC and whatnot. We don't have to do all this kind of stuff about sometimes looking on the local file system and sometimes looking in secrets. And what we basically do is we run boot as a job inside Kubernetes. We don't need Tekton, we don't need pipelines or anything as a job. And then those of you who've booted before will see the output of this, and it looks very much like a normal boot. It's chugging through, apart from that command, it could be quick. Look, we're doing Helm file sync now instead of JX step Helm apply. But other than that, it's applying stuff. And you see it's just done Nginx, and it's doing it here, Nginx ingress. In a few moments, that will all be done. It will then set up the ingress and the DNS and all that, the domain name and all that kind of stuff, and then it's going to boot the rest of the charts. So this is the big change. We're using Helm 3, and we're running the boot job as a job inside Kubernetes, which means we don't have to worry about who runs boot. Anybody could run boot at any point in time. There's no magic files on the file system. Everything's in a cloud storage secret manager. And it also means there's no issues about which version of JX and which version of kubectl and which version of Helm is on the laptop and all this kind of stuff. Everything's running in a lockdown pod inside the cluster, which is cool. The other thing that's kind of cool with this new version of boot is we can use Helm 3. So if I do Helm version, we're using Helm 3 here. And if I do Helm list, it lists all of the charts which have been installed right now. If you boot before, we traditionally with Helm 2, an environment is one massive Uber chart. And if you do Helm list, well, you can't do Helm list because that needs tiller. So you have to do JX step Helm list. And then that shows one chart called environment. Now we can just use Helm list, and it shows you all of the charts that are installed, and most importantly, the version of all the charts that are installed. Now it's taking a little while to install all these. It's going to install Lighthouse, it's going to install Tekton shortly, and then it will complete the boot with everything else. But the lovely thing is you can do Helm list to see everything that's installed at any point in time, which is awesome. So it's all using Helm 3. It's using Helm file under the covers to orchestrate installing all these different releases. And it's mounting secrets from Google Secret Manager in this case. So we're using secrets properly. And it's awesome. Any questions on any of this so far?
I was just going to add, James, that the first time it runs is quite slow because it runs serially, but then the second time it actually Helmfile does a diff, doesn't it? And then actually with the state of what's installed and what's actually where it needs to get to, so it's a lot faster, which is nice.
So this is a completely empty cluster, so it's never downloaded any of these images before, so it's taken a little while to install everything and boot everything up. But hopefully fairly soon it should be finished, and then we'll have a fully working cluster.
And just to caveat as well, so this is all being done at the moment around in labs, which is more experimental at the moment. It's defaulting to we're doing Lighthouse. This is on using GitHub and Google Cloud as well. So this is we want to be able to prove out what's these new ways and get that feedback. So then we can then expand that out across providing support for different cloud providers and SCM providers, for example.
The other big thing this opens the door, and I won't go into this too much, but it opens the door from a really easy multi-cluster way of bootstrapping, which I'll show in another office hours. I'll do a multi-cluster demo. But the lovely thing is there's no real difference between local and remote clusters. And every environment uses the same boot mechanism and the same boot pipeline. So once the boot's finished, it's just setting up the Git repository for staging. You see staging there? It's just about to set up the staging Git repository. As soon as that's done, it's done. Now I can look at the staging repository. And if I look inside this Git repository, so this is the Git repository for staging. And if you remember the one from before, it's pretty much the same. It's got a requirements file, it's got an apps file, it's got a Jenkins X pipeline, which should be smaller than that. Oops, pretend I didn't show you that. And it's got an apps file. Now the apps file in local staging, when you're deploying to local staging or local production, there's no more apps. Why? Because we're sharing the same Lighthouse and the same Tekton. If this was a remote staging environment, it would deploy Tecton and Lighthouse in the remote cluster for doing releases into staging. And if you want to see how to enable multi-cluster, you just add --n remote when you do your JX boot create, and that marks the staging and production environments as being remote, which means when it boots those up, they're already pre-configured to be clusters. Everything works the same. Boot works in every environment. We've got the same way of installing and upgrading apps in every environment, the same GitOps repository and the same source code. So life's really, really simple. But the beautiful thing from a Jenkins X contributor is we can use the same code that automates, say, secret managers or automates TLS or cert manager or external DNS or ingress or any of those things. Those things can be used in dev or staging or production, which is awesome. So that's the new Helm.
One more thing to...
Oh, it's booted.
I had a question.
Sure.
Go for it.
Yeah, so I saw, so you did a demo using a GCP, right? But is it supported in, say, the other cloud providers like Amazon or Azure? And what about GitLab? Like, is it only for GitHub at this point?
So this is using, you see, we've got Lighthouse there. So Lighthouse is used for webhooks. So Lighthouse supports GitHub, GitHub Enterprise, GitLab.
Right.
At this point, I wouldn't say it supports GitLab or Bitbucket yet. GitLab, we're not too far out from that.
It supports some of GitLab. Yeah.
It supports some of GitLab and a tiny part of Bitbucket at this point.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Doing promotions generally works. What's challenging is all the GitOps part. The ChatOps part is the trouble. Getting ChatOps to work reliably across all the Git providers is quite tricky.
It's an important point, actually, because we really just want to highlight that this is the difference between a labs project, a labs effort, where we want to prove things out. Things are going to change. Anything you see here may or may not change, but we want to get that feedback and get that as usable as possible, and solving the right problems in the right way, and then that can mature into a solid feature that's actually part of Jenkins X, that's supported on different cloud providers and with support for different SCM providers. So it's a very good question. It's a good point to kind of really hit home. The stuff that we're doing in labs is really just is to try and iterate fast, get some feedback, collaborate with people in an open source way, and then kind of build out these features in a nicer way whilst keeping the platform stable.
Yeah, I've just put on the screen the documentation for how to configure the different Git providers. So as Andrew said, the ChatOps support varies based on the Git service. It's awesome on GitHub and GitHub Enterprise. It's partially working on GitLab, and it's fairly terrible ChatOps-wise on Bitbucket. Although promotions work fine, it seems, on all three. So we support the same Git providers that Jenkins X does. Currently, we've only run system testing on GKE today, but we're hoping to be able to test on Azure and Amazon soon. There's a separate effort going on at the moment to automate the setup of all the cloud resources via Terraform, which is probably going into more detail in another office hours. We're hoping to reuse all that effort with the new Helm 3 boot, so we can test boots with Helm 3 and Azure and Amazon.
And that was one of the interesting things, because on the website as well, there was a script that was used, but there's also the harder way documentation, really. So rather than using JX create cluster, which was done before, we want to be pulling out describing exactly what's there. And again, there's a separate piece of work with the Terraform to do a better job of this. But already you can see that this is how, if you want to know the individual steps, and we still need to pull some things out, like the creating the storage buckets and various things. But just to point out, what James is showing there is all using workload identity on GKE as well, which is pretty awesome. So that's really quite exciting as well. So nice, where you attach a Kubernetes service account to a GCP service account, so you can control the IAM permissions then in GCP, which is really, really nice.
It is. It's very lovely.
So one thing that we'd hope is that people would try this out in a fresh cluster. Take it for a spin, see how it feels, and then provide feedback around the functionality. That's what we're really looking for here, is feedback on how stuff works.
And we've got an experimental upgrader. That's a great point, David. We've got an experimental upgrader which tries to upgrade a cluster that was created via either JX install or JX boot. And what it basically does is, if there's already a Git repository for the dev environment, it creates a pull request. If you didn't use GitOps to install Jenkins X like you did JX install, it creates a brand new Git repository and populates it with Helm 3 and all the configuration it can find, with the idea that it would be better if you create a fresh cluster or delete the JX namespace and install it again using the new boot. This is very experimental. A few people have tried it and banged their heads a little bit. So we're hoping to polish this experience a bit so we can make little clusters and migrate them to Helm 3 and the new Helm 3 boot mechanism. So please try it out and let us know how you get on with it.
So one question, I noticed in the demo that when you're doing the JX boot create, there's still a bit of prompting for user input. And I'm wondering if there's been thought already given to the story of having a completely non-interactive option for installing JX completely through configuration as code, because a lot of the enterprise customers that we talk to really require that for auditing purposes and things like that.
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the reasons we split things up from JXL boot create and the secrets option and the boot run is how you create this Git repository is completely up to you. We literally don't care. It's just a Git repository. So you could literally fork this repository, edit that requirements YAML any way you like to specify what cluster name is, what the project name is if it's on GKE. You could modify this however you wish. It's a declarative piece of YAML. And then JXL boot run just points at this. So if you want to miss out the incremental user input part of this, you could just make this YAML file however you want. Make a Git repository, put this YAML file in it, you're good to go. So we specifically split up boot. Boot used to be this quite complex, involved thing that did lots of different things together. Now the create stage, you can do that however you want. How you make a Git repository with this YAML file is up to you. We also have another step. One thing that's interesting is when you do multi-cluster, I'll just briefly walk through multi-cluster very, very quickly. The first thing you do is you create the Git repository for dev. Then when you boot that up, it automatically spins up the Git repository for staging and production if they don't exist already. Then when you spin up the cluster for staging or production, there's this new step, JX requirements. We basically look at the cluster you're connected to, looks at the Git repository and checks everything's okay. You know, that the project you're in maps the project that's in the Git repository, the cluster name is the same, the region's the same. And if not, it'll do a pull request or a merge. So you can just do everything by hand, you know, literally make that YAML file however you want and use this verify step to check, is the contents of Git the same as the cluster I'm connected to check everything's kind of good. But when you actually want to boot, the boot doesn't edit Git at all. When you run boot, this step here, the run boot. When you run JX boot run and you point at a Git repository, there's no interactivity, there's no modifying YAML files. It literally assumes what's in Git is correct and boots it. So,
and just to add to that as well, we had good timing actually, Greg. We had a conversation this morning, a couple of us, around having that same declarative approach for, say, adding apps, which David's actually looking at the moment. So kind of, you know, sometimes you would want to have be able to add in certain attributes or values to when you're adding an app. But sometimes you just want to have that declaratively set up front. You could, like in the Helm chart, is really quite nice with all documented, and then you just go. So I think, yeah, David's actually looking at something around this as well. So maybe we can stitch David up and hear about that in a couple of weeks. He's smiling.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Yeah.
Awesome.
And the stuff Hardy and Daniel are doing is kind of to generate the requirements file as part of a Terraform script. Like lots of the stuff in here, like what's the cluster name and what's the GKE project name or the Amazon or Azure equivalents, that stuff could probably be generated by Terraform rather than manually configured by hand. So I think over time, we could do all of this via pure Terraform. So it's literally just the Terraform plan, it boots everything up. And the main reason we do the boot as a job is it means Terraform can then run the boot piece, and there doesn't need to be any human interaction. So we could do everything via Terraform and then just run the boot job at the end. So we could spin up the Git repositories and do everything via Terraform.
So the Terraform effort was brought up, I think, at the last sync. I was wondering if the playbook was of any use to, I forget who was working on that, who was presenting at the last sync, but I shared the link of a GCP focused playbook that had a bunch of Terraform resources defined for setting up JX, and I was wondering if that was useful at all.
It was me presenting it, and actually it's Hardy doing the GKE part of it, and I think he actually looked into it and he's using it. So he should have the scripts for GKE app very soon. But
Okay.
yeah, it should be very similar to it. But yeah, I'm basically doing the same for EKS. I'm generating the JX requirements file, and that's actually working for basically to install Jenkins X right now.
Gotcha. And anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, just take a look at the meeting notes. I actually shared a repo that I created. It was actually for Lisbon. The Lisbon talk that I gave, where I basically wrote a bunch of Terraform resources for standing up all the infrastructure necessary on GCP for JX. Another question, well, not question so much as a re-plus-oneing of something that was brought up before. I noticed that a lot of the declarative processes are still assuming a repo per configuration, and I would just like to reiterate how there's a lot of demand for having subdirectories in a single repo as opposed to a repo per configuration. And with that, I'll yield my time.
I did have one other thought on that one. I don't know if it's something being Google, noticed that there was also the a Google Git. Something I didn't actually realise until fairly recently. Sorry, my dog's really enjoying this conversation. But I wonder if maybe there's an experiment there that we could actually use create Git repositories within using the gcloud Git commands, and actually just for the environment repos that might actually reduce, and then just leave GitHub for, say, your applications Git repositories. We might be able to. There might be some investigation we could do there. Would that help?
As is often the case, you're letting me know about something that I don't know about within Google, so I'll have to take a look.
Well, maybe we can have a little look together, and we'll ping you on the channel, and we'll see, because it looked like it should work. It was actually I was reading a document around the Google Apps stuff that came out a few weeks ago. So cool.
The only thing we'd probably lose is pull requests. And one thing that we'd love to do really soon with the Helm file stuff is when you do a pull request of an environment to, I don't know, upgrade Tecton or something, it'd be really nice if in the pull request we comment, a bit like with Terraform, when you show a Terraform plan and what is this Terraform going to do? There's something called Helm file diff in Helm file, which looks at the source code and does a diff with production or staging or dev and goes, these are the resources that would actually be modified if you go ahead and merge this pull request. What we'd like to do is generate, whenever you do a pull request on any environment, run that pipeline, generate the diff, and comment on the pull request that says, if you merge this pull request, 3 secrets will be deleted, this app will be improved, and this app will be upgraded from this version to this version, whatever. I'm not sure if the Google source repositories works with pull requests, but that's not a big deal either.
All right, we've got 20 minutes left. We've got 3 things that we want to try and cover. Should we spend 10 minutes, maybe, and then about 10 to try, next 10 minutes, Terry, on the 2 subjects you wanted to bring up, if that's okay? Do you reckon that's enough time?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Cool.
So I'm currently working on another app which needs the ability to modify the pipeline. So I just wanted to check in and see where we are on that. I know there were some constraints on Meta Pipeline at the moment, but I'm not sure what they are.
Andrew, do you want to take that one?
Sorry, I was distracted. This was the questions about the pipeline extension.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just trying to find out what the current constraints are. I understand there's something about volumes not being shared.
Yeah, I don't. It's been a while since we've looked at that again. I need to bug certain people to think about that more. Say product manager type people. We'll talk about that offline and loop back with you because yeah, we had to, the pipeline extension capabilities are like 80% done, and for some cases could be completely done, but there's no good examples out there. And the cases where you actually need to make a change to like a POM file as part of it are not functional because of the shared volume thing. But yeah, I never actually was working on that. I was just connected to it. So yeah, I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay, great. So the second point I wanted to try and formalize a bit is that in order to be able to manage the combination of quick starts, builders, and build packs, we're going to need some sort of mechanism to effectively version their life cycles and allow us to have more than one version of each running in parallel over an extended period of time. So I don't know what mechanism we want to use to run that discussion. Shall we put that in the new repo and do that as another enhancement?
Yeah.
Sorry, the very quick thing. There's some things that I didn't realise around with build packs that James, you pointed out to me the other day, that you could specify, for example, a build pack ref or something. And I don't know if there's a version in there as well, but I wonder if there's something around that, but maybe it's not even an enhancement. It might just be an issue or something. We could start off there and see, and it might be something we can do fairly easily.
Yeah, I
we
think
could probably do some tooling around. So right now you could have one zero of a build pack, and you could use it everywhere, and then you could have 1 and then you could choose one app to use 1 on, and then you could do 2 apps could use 1 and then 3 and then 4. But we don't have any. It would be almost nice to do a rolling upgrade of a build pack from like 1.0 to 1.2 to 1.3, and have tooling that goes. You have 20 apps. 3 are on 0, 3 are on 2, 2 are on 1, or whatever, and have a way of, a bit like when you do JXGate applications. It'd be nice to say, get me all the build packs of all the source repositories in my cluster, so you could like see them, like which apps are on which version, and do upgrades and downgrades and stuff like that. We could maybe do running upgrades or something.
Yeah, it probably does. Yeah, something like that. Maybe it is a proposal. We can carve out exactly what the problem, what we want to achieve from it, and then kind of start iterating on that. Yeah,
because I think there are probably some hacky solutions that would make something work, but it would be better if we actually thought this through and decided on a strategy for it.
Is that
something? I mean, rolling upgrades sound like a nice idea. Like imagine I've got 1.0 and I've got 10 repos. Having a way of saying, pick 1 at random, upgrade that to 1.1, run the release, did it work? Yes, okay, do another one. Almost do like canarying, do progressive delivery of new versions of build packs by just using your existing apps, right? And just automate the pull requests on each app to upgrade its build pack. Something simple like that would be really bloody useful to, move everyone forward in an incremental fashion.
Even just getting the updates, because at the moment it's just a manual task. If you add in something to a build pack and then you have to go through and a manual update of things, you want to put PR on each of your repos, really, of the diff of maybe, I don't know. Wow. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. But Terry, would that be all right to maybe raise something up? It doesn't have to be complete to start with. Just try and describe what the problem is, and then we can start getting some eyes and start.
Yeah, I'll get on with that later in the week. Brilliant.
Outstanding stuff. Okay. Let me just quickly take 5 minutes just to add one more thing from Labs that's just happened recently this week. It's kind of early, and then we can have 10 minutes for other questions for anything else. So just to hit home, Labs, there is a GitHub organization called Jenkins X Labs. Now, we're doing this because we want to make sure that if anybody's using any features from Labs, that they clearly know that they're using a Labs feature. So if they expect changes, they may or may not go through to landing in the Jenkins X org, may not get to a GA feature, and things may change. So we'll be using API versioning, but from an alpha point of view, expect things to change potentially quite dramatically or deleted as well. So we have some issues here. We have an issue repo, and we have a bunch of repos as well. Just to very quickly highlight, one of the things we've been doing, we did with JXL, that's actually here. We're taking the approach of this more of a microservices approach for CLIs. We actually have now a quick start for a Golang CLI that we actually use to create these nice CLIs. So we have a look at this one, for example, and we've got some nice labels, and artifacts automatically get released and updated. So we have automated CI/CD with Jenkins X using build packs. So we want to easily create new CLIs, but using almost like a microservices approach, where we do statically go import different parts of Jenkins of JX that we want to refactor and improve, and then that wraps up into a Labs binary, and we can keep on iterating. So we're kind of proving out a better way to start refactoring out the JX repo, because it's grown quite big. It is a monolith, and we've been having struggles with it, with automated testing and just modularization of it as well. So something we're doing, one of the highlights there around in Labs. Also, we have just another last thing quickly. James mentioned we've been looking at using Google Secrets Manager as an alternative to Vault when on GCP. It's actually really nice. I'm really impressed with it. Makes it super simple. One of the things that we kind of added, and there may be something else out there, we couldn't find anything, but it's fairly simple. This kind of controller. So where on traditional Jenkins X, we have a Vault implementation. And if you want to add in a secret, what you do is you have some, in a values YAML template, you have a Vault prefix to a key, and then that would, the pipeline would then go off to Vault, get the value, the data value from Vault, and actually add it into the Helm templating when applying those resources. So that was kind of the way we would get secrets into a cluster from Vault. When you were running on Google Cloud or GKE, there is we hacked together a controller, Kubernetes controller, that's running and watching for Kubernetes secret resources to be created. So anybody, this is ready to go to have a try out. I actually could have done a demo, but well, I'll do one now. But the idea is, if you want to say enable Google Secrets Manager in a different Google Cloud project, which we have done, can enable it here. You can actually create secrets. So this is a nice way you can actually add in a secret, so echo bar into the Google Cloud secrets, which is really nice, into a different project. Or you can add in actual files as well, which is quite nice. We can actually then, in your Kubernetes cluster in a different project, using workload identity, actually give the controller permission to access secrets from that Google Cloud project, which is again really nice. it can take a little while for workload identity to kind of, for everything to be, all the IAM roles to be available and working. So there's a verify step here. And then you can install from the Labs Helm repository, which we have, which is slightly separate. We can install this Google, this GSM controller. Now that means once that's running, you can add in any secrets. This is just a generic empty secret, and give it some annotations of, say, a key that you want to have. And well, let's go and run this now. And you give it the secret that was actually GSM secret ID equals foo. Now, if we go back up here, that was the secret that we put into Google Secrets Manager. How many times have I said secrets already in this in the last 5 minutes? I should get fined for it. Okay, let's see if I can just do this quickly. So, get pods. Maybe, yes, okay. So we can see we've got our controller running up here. So let's go and create a generic secret called my secret. I'm going to say, go and get the value from Google Secrets Manager of the ID of foo, which I created a bit earlier, and give it a key of credentials. And, okay, and probably go and get that. And there you can see it's actually, we actually didn't provide the data. That's gone off, the controller's gone off to, with the access permission, into the Google Cloud Project, and got the secret value for that ID, and then populated the data for it. So it's really quite a nice way. And then obviously you get your pods or your pipelines, so you'd actually mount that secret into your pods and pipelines, which is quite nice. Just wanted to show an extra thing there. And last but not least, this is a little bit early, but it's exciting news anyway. I wouldn't suggest anybody use this quite yet, but hopefully very soon we have something. Let's do, oh, sorry, Slack. There was something originally done within CloudBees. Pete Muir did most of this work. We have at the start of a Slack app. So to interact with, so you get notifications and pipeline visualizations within Slack, within your pipeline activities. You get notified when you need to approve a PR or when something's failed as well. So there'll be something a little bit, well, a lot more coming on this soon, but it was really quite exciting from our point of view that we've got this, and that'll be coming, hopefully be ready for people to try out very soon, hopefully by the next office hours as well. So with all of this, what we're trying to say is we really want to encourage, as David mentioned before, encourage the feedback. Jenkins X continuing to be stable and improving on stability and maturity as the open source project. But from a lab's point of view, we want to try things out. Things aren't necessarily going to work to start off with, but we also want to work with people to figure out how things fit together. We know that we want to keep iterating very, very fast and get that feedback. And the best way to do that is through collaboration within the open source project. So we hang out on Slack. There's also the issues repo as well in Jenkins X Labs. So dump any ideas, thoughts, and you have, and please give things a go when you have time. Any questions on that torrent of words I just gave?
Do you have a preference for receiving feedback on the GitHub issues or on Slack?
I think, well, it's always a tough balance. I think it's much information that we kind of, people want fast synchronous information, I guess. Slack is really, really good to find out problems, have a little chat about something, but then we can move that over into an issue. I think that is normally quite a good way. But to be honest, any which way we can get the feedback, I think we'll take. We're really just hoping to kind of strike the right balance of innovation around the labs and stability and maturity around Jenkins X. So I'd say go for Slack to start with, but issues also if you can't get hold of anybody on Slack. And hopefully we'll continue doing, well, we've already had 2 blogs out last week. There's going to be another one this week, another one next week, right, James? Stay tuned, man. And we're really going to be putting, we tail end of last year, last 6 months of last year, we weren't really doing enough around blogging, but we're really trying, there was other focuses. So we're really trying to show that we're really ramping up on that, kind of engaging the open source community and trying to increase that. So yeah, expect a lot more demos, blogs, and a lot more from us.
Sounds great. I know the CDF is looking for blog content as well, so I can help you move that forward to them. Similarly, if anyone from the community is writing articles and blogs on Jenkins X, we're happy to share it on our blog, but also to promote that to the CDF and have them republish it as well.
Yeah. Well, we started, it's not much there. I think there's only one in there at the moment. We've started a Medium. I don't know, Cara, if you saw that. We've started a Medium for area for Jenkins X, so we can actually import blogs there as well. So there's only one at the moment, but hopefully we can build that out as well, because Medium's really lovely.
Yeah, nice.
Cara, whilst you're there, did you want to, I think you had something you wanted to mention around Outreachy, is that right?
Yes, so Jenkins X is participating in Outreachy, and actually Outreachy will be announcing more information about the projects in the coming weeks. So that isn't out officially yet, but it will be soon. But in addition to that, this year Jenkins X is participating for the first time in Google Summer of Code. We're very excited about that. It's a great program to be part of. We're actually, because we're a new project to that mentoring program and outreach program, we are participating under the Jenkins umbrella. So it's quite nice. We can collaborate with them a bit and have their expertise help us along with the program. But to that point, I'm going to stick in this chat, and I will put it on our doc as well. The project ideas, they are listed on the Jenkins project ideas page for GSOC. But if you look, Jenkins X has 2 project ideas. And at the moment, those project ideas are coming out of enhancements and lab proposals. Students can work on these ideas. The idea is that the students would take sort of a framework idea, and in discussion with members of the community and on Slack, maybe on the issues, they would develop an aspect of it that is really their own and reflects their own interests, and then they would make a proposal to GSOC. So they carry it forward. But look out for them on the Slack channels and engage in conversations. I'm really excited that we'll have more sort of enthusiastic, creative young people involved in the community.
That's really great. That's really good news. Yeah, fantastic. Does anybody else have anything they wanted to mention at all? Or ask any questions?
Another quick update from me. We've just released a bunch more machine learning quick starts. So we've now got scikit-learn examples as well. So we're up to about a dozen quick starts, and we've got another half dozen that are just going through a review and should be released shortly.
Great news, fantastic. One of the, I think hopefully we're going to be seeing a lot more of these quick starts. I think we've flogged to death the Go HTTP or the Node HTTP quick starts in the kind of demos. We're really using the quick starts ourselves on the Jenkins X, which is something we didn't do enough of recently. I think there's still some challenges we're finding with the syntax with build packs at the moment, being a little bit different. So I know that it can be a bit of a challenge, but yeah, I think the more quick starts that we have and the more build packs that we have, I think the better. All right, anything else from anybody?
I was actually trying to fix the case of a Docker image not being valid. I added like the fix. I'm just working on some of the tests if you want to know.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't quite catch the first bit of that. Could you repeat that?
So yeah, so there was an issue with a K-sync, like when you try to do JX boot, or when you try to do, when you try to do JX sync, it was not getting the right Docker, it was not getting the right tags for like the images for K-sync. So I have the issue fixed already, but I am adding some more tests it should be done soon.
Outstanding. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Excellent. No, that's really good news. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. I cut you off. Were you going to add something else? Okay. Okay, great. Youssef, hello. Yes, we did we talk about Helm 3 at the start. There was a demo. James did something for around about 20 minutes. So I'll get the recording up kind of straight after this and ping it on the channel once that's available, if that's okay. Awesome. All right, look at that. 59 minutes. You thought we'd fill the time. Brilliant. Thanks ever so much for everybody and James for talking us through that. Hopefully there's a lot of exciting times. Remember, enhancement proposals for anything you think of, feedback around the lab's work, anything, please just give us, let us know and let's work together and try and improve that at the speed of that innovation. And thank you for all the contributions as well and everybody taking part today. See you next time. Thank you. Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.